The National Testing Agency, viewers, has admitted in the Supreme Court today that there was a certain amount of mismanagement in its conduct of the NEET exam. And because of this, it has decided to cancel the grace marks awarded to 1,563 students. Not only this, it has also announced that it will conduct a retest for these students. The agency also said that those students didn't want to be retested could accept their original scores without grace marks. Viewers, let me take you over the response of the NTA in the Supreme Court to the questions that are being asked of it. It says the retest is likely to be held on June 23rd and the result will be declared before June 30th, viewers. So all of these students who think that they want to not really accept their original score without the grace marks can go in for the retest. But those who skip the retest, viewers, the NTA says they will be scored without grace marks and they will be handed out their certificates. The NTA also said that the retest is to be finished to not affect counselling scheduled from July 6th. No sooner had the NTA stated its amended position in court that the government came out to defend the agency, the National Testing Agency or the NTA. At one point, the Education Minister even alluded to what he believed was unnecessary politics being played over the issue. Listen in.
आउट ऑफ 4,500 सेंटर 6 सेंटर में गलती से गलत सेट्स ऑफ क्वेश्चन आ गई। जब परीक्षा चल पड़ी कुछ समय के बाद उसको संज्ञान में लिया गया और उसको विड्रॉ करके फिर सही प्रश्न पत्र दिया गया। उसमें कुछ टाइम लॉस हुई। उन 6 सेंटर में लगभग 1563 स्टूडेंट उसमें परीक्षा दे रहे थे। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की एक स्टैंडिंग ऑर्डर है। इस प्रकार की कहीं एंट्रेंस में कुछ विषय आती है तो री एंट्रेंस ना कराते हुए एक एवरेज मार्किंग ग्रेस मार्किंग की मेथड पे उनको कंपनसेट किया जा सकता है। आज ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्पष्ट किया है उन 1563 स्टूडेंट्स को री एग्जामिनेशन का अपॉर्चुनिटी दिया जाए। पेपर लीक की हमारे पास कोई जानकारी नहीं है।
But the students have held firm. They refuse to budge on their demand for an independent probe. The opposition too has backed the students alleging corruption by the NTA. Listen in, viewers.
सरकारी के पदाधिकारियों को बुलाएंगे, वो तो बोलेंगे ही कि जी हजूर कुछ हुआ ही नहीं। अगर वो एनटीए के लोगों को बुलाएंगे वो तो बोलेंगे कि हाँ सर सब ठीक है, और इस जवाब से वो संतुष्ट है। क्या उनको वो वॉइस रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं मिला जिसमें एक कोचिंग सेंटर के एग्जाम सेंटर के लोग मालिक ने कहा कि 30 लाख लो, 30 लाख दो और पेपर ले लो? तो जब जांच हुई ही नहीं, कौन सी जांच के आधार पर उन्होंने ये बात रखी?
Grace marking should not be given in such a competitive examination where 24 lakh fight for 40,000 government seats, and I feel like it is given to more than 1,500 students because there has been like a high inflammation of rank, like from 600 between 600 to 700 there is like a huge gap where for one seat thousands of students are fighting. So I think they need to come clean.
सर इसमें तो अब टेक्निकल इशू भी हो सकता है और या फिर एनटीए का स्कैम हो सकता है। अब हरियाणा के एक ही सेंटर से 8 बच्चों का 720 में 720 आया है और पहले न्यूज़ आ रहा था कि बहुत जगह चीटिंग हुआ है, पेपर लीक हुआ है, लेकिन एनटीए तो अब मना कर रहा है कि नहीं हुआ है। एनटीए ने पहले बोला था कि सवाई माधोपुर में पेपर लीक हुआ है, लेकिन अब एनटीए उससे रिफ्यूज़ कर रहा है कि अब नहीं हुआ है।
सर बिल्कुल भी संतुष्ट है। 1513 की तो बात ही नहीं है, हमें तो सिर्फ नंबर दिया गया है जैसे हम घूम जाएं, और एक्चुअली में घूम गए हैं बच्चे। पेपर लीक का सबको पता थी, पटना पुलिस का सबको मामला पता है सब, तो लेकिन उन बच्चों का अगर उन्होंने पेपर लीक नहीं करा तो आप उनको बेल क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो? सीधी सी बात ये है। अगर फिर उनको किस उसमें जुर्म में अरेस्ट कर रखा, पटना पुलिस की वो एफआईआर झूठ बोल रही है, पटना पुलिस झूठ बोल रही है या आप झूठ बोल रहे हो?
Independent of the demands being made of the NTA and the NDA, there remain certain important unanswered questions. Let me take you through some of them, viewers. They're on your screens. If procedure was followed judiciously, then why has the testing agency scrapped the grace marks? It's a very simple, straightforward question. By scrapping grace marks, has the NTA ended up underlining its mismanagement? Why didn't the NTA disclose during result declaration that it had awarded 1,563 students grace marks? How can anyone be sure mismanagement did not extend beyond 6 exam centers? After all, viewers, it is only a few of the students who have actually filed petitions. The rest haven't. If NEET paper wasn't leaked, then what explains the FIRs by the Bihar and Rajasthan police? Viewers, there are some of these questions that need to be answered, and we haven't really got point-by-point responses specifically to these questions. You've had general responses, but not specific ones, specifically on timelines. Let's go across to Sai Deepak, who is an advocate and, of course, the petitioner advocate in specific. Yesterday, we saw and spoke to the petitioner who goes by the name Physics Wala. Today, Sai Deepak, who represents him, joins us. Now, Sai Deepak, let me ask you, the NTA has given a detailed response saying that, look, it is addressing all the issues with regards to the concerns that have been raised. Do you believe it addresses the main doubts and grievances?
So I think there are 2 or 3 different aspects which have been raised in multiple petitions, and I think it's important to understand the scope and the different allegations in the petitions. The first set of petitions related to the leak of the paper itself, the alleged leak at this point. And there appears to be some issue which deserves further scrutiny, because I think from what I gather, an FIR has also been registered, because it appears that certain candidates or certain candidates who were in close proximity to each other in terms of their roll numbers or whatever it is, and who were from the same center, managed to score similar or perhaps the highest possible marks, I think 720 or so. Then, of course, is the post-result aspect, when it was then realized that grace marks had been awarded without any basis whatsoever, on the ground that in certain centers, there was loss of time to the tune of about 3 hours and 20 minutes. And therefore, to compensate for that, grace marks were awarded arbitrarily, to the extent that certain students who had originally scored about 630 or 640 were given 70 marks or 80 marks in additional scores in grace marks. And that resulted in them securing even the first rank, All India rank 1 in NEET. Now, the petition in which I appeared as the arguing counsel, I appeared for this gentleman by the name Alak Pandey, who is otherwise known popularly as the Physics Wala. He has appeared on behalf of 20,000 students, despite the fact that his own students, so to speak, who he has coached, some of them have secured the first rank, because clearly he understands the capability of students during their internal assessments and the ultimate outcome. So the primary thrust of his petition is, of course, the award of grace marks. The other thrust of the petition is the aspect of whether there was a paper leak or not, and whether this issue needs to be re-examined thoroughly. Now, our petition was filed on the 9th, and it was mentioned on the 11th. The Honorable Bench had suggested that we route it through the registry. Therefore, the matter was listed today. So, in our case today, there were about 3 or 4 petitions that were listed together. Ours was item number 3. One of those petitions was with respect to the leak. The other 2 petitions were in the context of the grace marks being awarded. Even before the petitions could be taken up by the bench, and before notice was issued in our petitions, the NTA basically said that they had some kind of a proposal based on their internal minutes. No detailed reply has been filed. What they handed over to the court was the minutes of the particular meeting, which were held on the 11th and 12th of June, that is yesterday and day before yesterday, under which they had taken a decision, apparently, that the 1563 candidates who had been awarded grace marks would basically be given an option wherein they could retake the test, or they could retain the scores without the grace marks. But the problem with this, although it addresses in principle some aspect of the issue, the problem with this is these 1563 candidates are those candidates who approached the court in various petitions. However, those candidates who did not approach the court in petitions, but who too suffered from loss of time and who were similarly placed as these candidates, have not been extended the benefit of this option. So therefore, that issue remains outstanding. So our entire point is, out of 3 or 4 broad issues that have been raised, one issue has been partially addressed only to the extent that the candidates who approached various high courts and writ petitions for grace marks are the ones to whom this benefit has been extended. Therefore, either they get to take a retest afresh or they get to retain the scores after the deduction of the grace marks being awarded to them. So the issue is not fully addressed, but this raises the larger question of what exactly transpired during the conduct of NET or NEET this year. Why have there been so many issues in the conduct of that particular exam? That seems to be the grievance that students are raising. And each of these petitions, in fact, the rest of the petitions, including our petition on this limited aspect, have been listed on the 8th of July for arguments on the issue. So hopefully the NTA will file a detailed response on these aspects as well.
Well, we'll await that response. It's already put out, as you know, viewers, an FAQ that we went over yesterday with the physics wala. Today we have Sai Deepak. Now, Mr. Deepak, are you surprised that the NTA never declared that it had given grace marks till the petitions were filed, actually?
You know, there are 3 or 4 issues here, Rahul, and I'm happy you're raising this question. Some of the scores that have been awarded, I am told are mathematically impossible going by the structure of the examination and its marking system. Okay, that's one. The second thing is, initially, the fact that grace marks had been awarded was not even informed until people started asking, what is the basis of the score? Then it was told that perhaps in one center, I think it is Savai Madhopur, they said that that was the place where there was loss of time, and based on the CCTV footage, they decided to extend the score. Then that was extended to 5 other centers. Totally, they said only 6 centers suffered from this problem. Whereas students are saying, you initially said no center suffers from the problem. Then you said only 1 center. Now finally your position is only 6 centers. Why don't you call for representations from candidates from the various centers to understand how many centers actually suffered from this particular problem, as opposed to coming out with a piecemeal solution where you're basically saying, we will extend the limited benefit that we're offering only to those candidates who approach the High Court. And the funny part is, you're looking at students, these are not professional litigants. Please remember that the results were announced, I think, only on the 4th of June. And once the results announced, that's when this mayhem started, or all hell broke loose. So surely, I think it's possible for the NTA to take a slightly more holistic approach. Allow me to say this, that it's good that they have come with a certain concession and there is a certain admission that there's a problem in the manner in which grace marks were awarded. But that should have been said at the outset instead of people having to approach the courts. Second, in every examination, particularly when it happens to be a competitive examination or even a public service examination, the terms and conditions for award of grace marks are typically mentioned in the prospectus itself. In the prospectus of this particular case, in the prospect of NEET, I think it's clause 3.14 or clause 3.4, which specifically mentions or envisages the possibility of awarding of grace marks only to candidates with physical challenges. There is no provision for grant of grace marks for any other circumstance. So then what did they do? After the petitions were filed, they released an FAQ saying how these grace marks were awarded. Then these minutes were presented in court. So there appears to be a certain ad hocism, if I say so with the deepest of respect to the agency, that for a competitive examination of the highest order, with 24 lakh students actually appearing annually, which is perhaps the highest for most competitive examinations. I think the figure for IIT JEE is only about 13 lakh. And for CLAT is about 2.5 lakh to 3 lakh. 24 lakh candidates appearing. This is a pen and paper examination. It's not online. I would have expected some degree of clarity in their approach, as opposed to responding to the situation as it unfolds. Only after people start approaching the court or start raising questions.
Well, it's perhaps ad hocism because the centers ruled out the entire possibility of a question paper leak. And it is also cautioned against unnecessary politics. So, I mean, is there an element of politics here? What's your response?
See, I don't wish to get into the political aspects of this situation under any circumstances because, as an arguing counsel representing a certain petitioner before the court, I have no interest in hurling politically motivated allegations.
Yeah.
I would simply suggest that perhaps a larger revisitation of the overall conduct of the examination may be necessary in light of their own admission with respect to certain allegations that yes, this has happened with respect to grace marks. Now, on the question of paper leak and all, considering that it's a sensitive issue, I'd like to see what the court has to say. I will not comment on that beyond this because that would be to disrespect the forum that we've approached.
Yeah.
My position today before your channel is only to explain what transpired in court. I do not wish to pass any value judgments at this stage.
Okay, so let me ask you, because the NTA has set up a committee, yet students want an independent probe. Now, is this demand valid?
I would only proceed on the cautious and pragmatic basis that considering that to some extent there appears to be some degree of concern with respect to the overall conduct of the examination, perhaps it would help to have certain neutral observers as opposed to the NTA constituting an internal high-powered committee itself, simply because not only would it inspire confidence, you will also get a broad array of concerns which the conduct of the NEET has given rise to this time. I am someone who is very careful about hurling allegations or imputing conspiratorial motives to anyone, so I will certainly not do that. In the capacity of a professional arguing counsel appearing for a party before the court, I will simply say, I think in the interest of fairness and in the interest of optics, it would help if there is some kind of a stakeholdership participation as part of the process. As opposed to it being an internal committee itself, that may inspire greater confidence is all I have to say.
Okay, because, you know, the NEET has been deemed a problematic exam for a variety of well-publicized reasons. Now, where do you stand on the architecture of NEET? You know that the DMK has come out and said that it should be scrapped, and it has elucidated to the fact that there are massive disincentives really for students who may not be may not have actually wherewithal to prepare for such an exam. And therefore, it militates or disadvantages certain set of students.
See, on this, I will limit myself to the position that any such allegation which is leveled at NEET could be equally said of UPSC, could be equally said of Public Service Commission examinations, including in the state of Tamil Nadu, could be equally said of IIT JEE or AIEEE or any host of examinations or CAT for that matter, because some people will have the benefit of having access to certain coaching centers, some may not. That is a matter of chance, that's a matter of luck, and to put it simply, that is a matter of life. These are realities of life. Therefore, if you wish to pull down the entire scaffolding or the edifice because you have some kind of an ideological problem with a competitive examination being conducted by the Union of India, I think that's a bit of a stretch of an argument. I have no reason to make such an allegation, and I will not certainly take a position against the conduct of competitive examinations such as NEET. The issue before the court is a very limited issue. If there are politically motivated dramatists personally who wish to ride on the coattails of this issue to assail the entire edifice itself, I would say that is not just mischievous. It comes at the expense of two things: the hard work of students, which is what we are trying to do justice to.
Yeah.
And second, the preservation of quality at the highest levels when you're looking at serious professions such as engineering and medicine. I will certainly not stand by any such conspiratorial allegations and any attempt to pull down the edifice. That I will not stand by.
Well,
that is not my mandate either as part of this case or outside of it.
That's very appreciated. Thank you for taking such a balanced view, Sai Deepak, even though you have skin in the game. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's quickly ask a few questions, viewers, around the politics now. And let me bring in Mr. Rajagopalan. Mr. Rajagopalan, you heard Sai Deepak, extremely balanced. He wasn't going to spin this into any sort of a political conspiracy or anything. But I want to ask you, there are certain political parties. Do you believe that some of them are piggybacking, riding this particular, as he said, the coattails of this issue? Are they doing a disservice to the students?
Yes, certainly, especially DMK. They want to make it as a political issue. They want to make it as a social justice. And as Sai Deepak very effectively argued that, It's all done on a politics platform. Second thing, the students have been misled. I do agree what Mr. Sai Deepak also said, and we wait for Supreme Court's decision on July 8th, Rahul. Plus, I would like to charge how many colleges are run by politicians, how many tutorial colleges are run by DMK men, why DMK is taking a hard position. Only in the country, the neighboring states support the NEET. Kerala, Andhra, Telangana.
Oh, so you're saying that they want to continue with a system that is less meritorious. Okay, let me just quickly bring in Mr. Kamru Chaudhary. Mr. Kamru Chaudhary, is a disservice now being done by politicizing this, that you're jumping on this issue and you're actually now making students more and more disillusioned, distrusting of a pretty robust system? Yes, there have been problems, they'll be sorted out, but to suggest that there is a conspiracy to cheat students is going too far?
Rahul, I can't understand how, when the problem will be sorted out. I'll cite you one small
that's a different issue. I'm talking about the politics.
I'm telling you, I'm citing a small example from my own personal life.
Your own ally says scrap the NEET. Why?
Rahul, let me just finish once. I'll tell you, last year my son appeared for the NEET. He scored 694 and scored a rank of 558. And he was lucky enough to get in one of the AIMS institutes.
That's
in
brilliant.
India.
Yeah.
Now come to the point. With the same 694 scores, this year the rank is around 20,000. Who are responsible for this?
No, that understood. But should it be made into a political issue, or maybe there is a mismanagement issue? But okay, why?
Where's the politics coming?
Okay.
Now you see.
No, 1 second. I've run out of time. Viewers, look.
Let me come in.
No, you can't.
Let me just finish within 10 seconds.
No, please. I've run out of time, so I beg you. Look, viewers, let's separate the politics from the chaff. All the time, we can't have this constant political assault on every institution. There is a problem. They've accepted the problem. Now let's wait for them to find a solution. If they can't, then let's hope that the Supreme Court can arbitrate. I leave it at this, viewers. The Right Stand with Anand Narasimhan next.